Hi everyone, welcome back. It is Atia here at Booking It with Atia, and today we're going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of January. Now, if you saw I can't remember which video I referenced it in, maybe it was my February TBR, but I mentioned that the wrap-ups are going to be a little bit different going forward. So this is actually, at least for the time being, going to be the last monthly wrap-up that I do. It's becoming overwhelming. Even if I cut out the manga and comics that I'm reading, doing a full wrap up at the end of the month with all of the novels, short stories, and novellas is becoming overwhelming and daunting a little bit, and I'm finding that I'm not remembering as much as I would like to about books read in the first half of the month by the time I film wrap up at the end of the month. So we are going to move forward with some weekly wrap-ups. So I will be wrapping up everything that I read in 1 week from Monday to Sunday, because that's the way my planner works, from Monday to Sunday, and you'll be getting weekly wrap-ups going forward. I'm really excited, and I think that I'll just be able to better review books and better be able to explain my thoughts on books. So this monthly wrap up is actually going to cover everything that I read up until January 28th. The 29th, 30th, and 31st are going to be included in that first weekly wrap up that you will be getting later on this week. So yeah, let's talk about what I read in the month of January. A brief reminder that I am partaking in the marketing boycott against St. Martin's Press. If you are confused about what that is or don't know about it, then I highly recommend that you check out Readers for Accountability on Instagram, TikTok, and or Threads. But basically what that means is that there are 2 books that I read during the month of January that I will not be talking about or marketing in any way because they fall under a St. Martin's Press imprint. So let's start with my 2 stars. In this category, I only have 1 book, and that is Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. This follows a white family who rents out a house on Long Island, and one day it's the husband, the wife, and the 2 kids, and one day a elderly black couple shows up and is like, hey, this is actually our house and we need to stay here because something has happened in the city and we don't know what's happening, but we'd like to be in our own house. And so it's these 2 family units trying to coexist as they don't know what's happening on the outside world because they can't get any communication out and there's no communication coming in. I gave this book 2.75 stars. Low-key a bit boring. There was some intrigue, but it was a letdown. It was a real letdown. I do look forward to possibly watching the movie simply because I'm fascinated to see if this is one of those stories that would work better as a movie rather than a book. I don't know. We'll see if I ever get around to doing that. Moving on to my 3 stars. First up, we have Momo Arishima Steals the Sword of the Wind by Misa Sugira. This follows Momo Arishima, and she has to, well, steal the Sword of the Wind, and there's a quest. Let me look this up so I can give you, so I'll read the synopsis to you. It says, all Momo wants for her 12th birthday is a normal life, a life like everyone else's. At home, she has to take care of her absent-minded widowed mother. At school, kids ridicule her for mixing up reality with the magical stories her mother used to tell her. But when Momo's mother falls gravely ill, and a death hag straight out of those childhood stories attacks Momo at the mall, where she's rescued by a talking fox, and normal goes out the window. It turns out that Momo's mother is a banished Shinto goddess who used to protect a long-forgotten passageway to Yomi, aka the land of the dead. That passageway is now under attack, and countless evil spirits threaten to escape and wreak havoc across the earth. joined by Nico the Fox and Danny, her former best friend turned popular jerk, whom she never planned to speak to again, much less save the world with. Momo must embrace her definitely not normal identity as half human, half goddess to unlock her divine powers, save her mother's life, and force the demons back to Yomi. This was a great start to a series. I really enjoyed the development of the relationship between Momo and her ex-best friend Danny. Nico the Fox is also just an hilarious addition, and I gave this 3.75 stars, and I will be continuing with the series. Next up, we have So Many Beginnings by Bethany C. Morrow. This is a Little Women remix that follows the 4 March sisters. If you know the story of Little Women, you kind of get a sense of like what this is about. We have 4 black sisters. This is during the Civil War era, and they live in a freed black community, and it is all of them finding their way and just emerging and becoming Little Women. And I really love this, really enjoyed it, and it had a great balance of character perspectives between the 4 sisters, and I gave this one 3.75 stars. Then we have a reread for me. I listened to Dragon Pearl by Yoon Ha Lee. This follows Min, and her brother June went into the Space Forces, and he is deemed a traitor, and Min is like, no, that's definitely not the thing, it can't be the thing, and she runs away, disguises herself as a dead soldier in order to find out what actually happened with her brother. Now, the caveat in the way that she's able to do this is because she is actually a gumiho, which is a 9-tailed fox. And in this society, 9-tailed foxes are thought to be almost extinct, and no one trusts them because they have the ability of charm and they're able to disguise themselves. And yeah, I mean, I wanted a refresh because I've been wanting to continue on with this series, and I wanted to just refresh my mind on what had happened in the first book, so that is why I reread Dragon Pearl, and I gave this 3.75 stars. It's really fast and intriguing. I love the world, love the mythology that's included in this, and that leads me to my next read, which is Tiger Honor by, again, Yoon Ha Lee. This is the second book in this series. This is technically, well, it is a sequel to Dragon Pearl, but it follows a different main character. However, we do come in contact with Min. We follow non-binary Sabin, who is a tiger spirit, and all they have wanted to do is go into the Space Forces. However, there is a scandal that is following them into the Space Forces, and they end up in a little bit of trouble and having to essentially decide, you know, what does it mean to honor your family, what does it mean to honor yourself, and do what's right and wrong. And I gave this 3.5 stars. I think this is an excellent setup to seeing our duo in Fox Snare, which is the 3rd book. I'm actually reading that right now, and I really liked what was done in terms of introducing us to the character of Sabine, but also furthering Min's character development as well. Next up, we have The Takeout by Tracy Badua. This follows a young girl who, her father has a food truck, and she's really excited. She loves working in the food truck, loves coming up with recipes, and just is really proud of this food truck. When her 2 heroes come to town, they are culinary stars. She's excited because they are opening up a restaurant. It turns out, however, that the restaurant they are opening is very, very similar to her father's food truck, down to the fact that the recipes might even be the same. So she enlists the help of a new friend to try and stop this new restaurant from opening and exposing this duo as being cultural appropriators and stealing the recipes of small businesses. The Takeout features clear characters and a genuine protagonist. I absolutely enjoyed this character's perspective, and this is an excellent conversation starter about gentrification and culture cultural appropriation, and I gave the Takeout 4 stars. Next we have Winston Chu versus the Whimsies by Stacey Lee. This is a middle grade fantasy. It follows Winston Chu and his group of friends as they essentially are stopping this. Let's start from the beginning. So somehow Winston ends up in possession of these possessed broom and dustpans that are actually a goddess and her mortal husband in the form of these household appliances from a mysterious man that owns a shop in town, and they are known as these Whimsy. So this Whimsy Emporium is where he gets the broom and dustpan. It ends up that his sister's soul is taken out of her body, and there is a changeling running around in his baby sister's body, and it's up to him and his friends to help the goddess and her mortal husband, but also get his baby sister back. And it's full of shenanigans. It's fun, it's funny, fast-paced. I gave it 4 stars, and I will definitely be continuing with the series. Next up, we have Love in Winter Wonderland by Abiola Bello. This follows 2 Black British teenagers as they try and save one of their family's Black-owned bookstore. I really love this. It was super messy. It is a romance. What I really appreciated about Love in Winter Wonderland is how we really get to see these 2 characters develop on their own separately, but also just become friends and realize their feelings for one another. One of them is in a relationship. There is no cheating in this, but it is emotionally messy because you have this one character who is in this relationship that is not objectively bad, but is not fulfilling their soul, and so they're like, well, why would I mess up a good thing? Like, there's nothing bad about this relationship. And then we have another character that is so bent on trying to look like other people and be like other people, and I just really enjoyed this. I really did. This was my first book by this author, Abiola Bello, and I know that she has adult books, adult romances, and I'm looking forward to reading those, and I gave that one 4 stars. Next up, we have Steaks and Bones by Julia V. and Ken Babel. This is the same author duo that wrote Ebony Gate. This is their indie published fantasy. This is actually the start of a series. This is a near future fantasy world where it's essentially dystopian, and there is a veil that our main character is in, our main character Roxy, and she is trying to become a vampire slayer. Her father was a famous vampire slayer, and she is trying to follow in his footsteps so that she is able to send home a cure to her mother because her mother is sick. This has actions, it has a trial, it has great characters, and one of the things that I really enjoyed about Ebony Gate was the different side plots that like interlink into the main plot, and that is definitely present in Steaks and Bones. I've already started the 2nd book, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes, and if I didn't say it already, I gave that 4 stars. Next up, we're going to go into my 4.5 and up stars, starting with The Shadow Prince by David Anthony Durham. This is a fantasy, a middle grade fantasy, the start of a series, and we have our main character, Ash, in this society which is based in ancient Egyptian mythology. In this society, you have a trial to become the prince's shadow, and that is basically children who were born on the exact date of the prince, and it is a fight to the death essentially, and all to become this high-ranking official. You shadow the prince, you become his friend, you're also his protector. There's an inclusion of different Egyptian gods who are actually like actual beings. They're not just mythology in this book, and I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I'm looking forward to continuing the series. I just realized that the next book I was going to talk about, Vampires of El Norte, is actually part of a vlog project. So I did finish this book, and you can find my full thoughts on Vampires of El Norte in an upcoming vlog project where I am reading via prompts for my TBR jar. So moving on ahead to the next book, we have Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Crystal Maldonado. This follows Charlie Vega. She is a plus size Puerto Rican girl and she is comfortable in her body. She loves her body, and she starts to have doubts about herself and her worth when she is asked to a dance by a boy, only so she brings her best friend. And once she finds that out, she kind of goes into this tailspin, and there's a little bit of romance. There's an interesting, messy relationship with her mother, who was also plus size, but after her father passed, the mother went on this insane diet, lost a bunch of weight, and now she's trying to force her body image issues on Charlie Vega, and I absolutely love this. I gave it 4.75 stars. The last book that I read in the month of January was Finally Seen by Kelly Yang. This is a middle grade contemporary that follows Lena. She is 10 years old, and it is the first time that she is in America. It's also the first time she's seeing her parents in about, I want to say, 5 years. Yeah, so her parents took her little sister and they moved to Los Angeles, left her behind in Beijing with her grandmother, and she finally convinces them that she wants to come to America and live in America as well. And so when she gets there, it's not like she thought it was. Of course, she's having trouble grasping the language and speaking and making friends. There's also a little bit of a tense relationship between her and her parents, because she's like, well, why did you take my little sister but not me? And I absolutely loved this story. It was beautiful. Kelly Yang really knows how to write. I do plan on going through all of her backlists, and there's actually a sequel to Finally Seen called Finally Heard, which I believe comes out in the month of February, and I will definitely be continuing on with this series. Alright, and that is everything that I read in the month of January, well, up until January 28th. Be on the lookout for my weekly wrap-ups, and to do that, make sure you are subscribed and have hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I come out with a new video. All of my socials are down below, as well as a link to my book club, my Pango Books storefront, and my Etsy shop, and I will see you in another video. Bye!
Showing. I ain't living for the moment. I see what's mine and I want it. Hungry like a Pac-Man. I'm Bruce Wayne and Batman. I'm Naruto with a Hanzo. Got a sharp mind like I'm Einstein. Plus I'm copywriting, so it's all mine. Check it for me, I'm in the sky.